I'm going to scroll down and make sure you grab the, once this change has been made, so this is the new stuff. I've got to put that in here. I was wondering why it was exactly the same. So. Okay. Now, before we were setting a text view and we're using the content here. Now we're setting a web view. And again, we're getting find view by ID, grabbing the website detail, and then we're loading. Rather than setting the text, we're saying load URL. So in a web view, you can just say load this URL. And then we're using this M item, which is linked to our dummy content, mitem.website URL. It doesn't know what web view is. I got to import that. So I'm just going to right click and alt enter. And it should put an import up here for WebKit web view. And I'm going to delete this old. I'll just comment out this old one. So again, the main thing that was changed was this one line here. It was a text view, and now it's a web view. We do a find view by ID. One thing to note is when you're in fragments, you've got to use this root view.find view by ID rather than just find view ID, which you can do in activities.
Yeah, do this one.
So that looks right.
Root view, you should be right.
Go.
Oh, is there an extra?
Yeah, you have an extra return underneath it. That might be.
Oh,
Yeah.
That might be it.
Right here?
But it's not finding this website URL.
Yeah.
Let's go to your dummy content. Something's not right there. Scroll down and see what's static. So somehow we got lost up here. Go up here and see. Scroll up just a little bit more. Static. So you've got an extra bracket in there.
This one?
Yeah. Okay, so that. Okay, that's looking. Yeah, so there's no red line there. So now I'll go back to here and let's see if that's right.
Yeah.
Purple.
You.
No public phase room. Is it your extra?
So.
It's the extra root view thing you've got down here.
You right here?
Yeah, you should only have.
Which one's the extra? It's this.
You only have 2 brackets.
Oh.
You have an extra bracket too.
Oh, shoot. Hold on.
Yeah.
So what you need to do is eliminate that bracket, get rid of that bracket, and this return root view.
Yeah, I
Should be okay.
I have a question.
I think you still got an extra bracket there.
One more.
Yep. Okay.
I kind of lost you in the dummy part right there.
That
That's
Okay.
what we're supposed to
That one.
copy and paste it somewhere around here.
That one.
So this dummy item stuff.
Yeah.
So grab this whole
Okay.
public
Weird.
static. So grab the scroll down more. This, see this box, this whole dummy item. Grab that whole thing and then go
Put it right here.
and then replace that dummy class with the new one you just pasted. So that whole class should go away. Yep. That looks good. That'll help.
Is it the kind? The,
Is it the content that's making this red?
this. It looks like I have the
You've-
right number of brackets.
Delete this. Right. Can I just look at brackets real quick? You see, we don't need. We should comment this out.
Oh.
That's our problem. So we'll just comment that out too. Okay. Yeah. There.
Okay, cool.
It was just that method was defined twice,
Okay.
above and below.
Oh.
So. Did you replace all the static variables in the dummy class? So there should have been, in the tutorial they have you deleting these and replacing with those. I think you did that already. Okay. All right, so we should have our website set up. So now our website view should load the actual website. We'll call this load URL, and we'll pass it in the URL. So in our web view, in our detailed view, it's actually display the website for us. So I think that pretty well wraps up the stuff we can run the app. Now, if we run the app, I'm going to start up a emulator. So I brought some of the phones and tablets here if you want to grab one and run. Sometimes they're faster, but you can just run it on emulator too. So I'm just going to run this on emulator so you can see it. So I'm going to start up the emulator and then explain to you the last thing we have to do. Okay. So we haven't talked too much about the manifest and permissions. I don't know if you've ever installed a new Android app, and when you install it, it says this app needs permissions to go on the internet and view your contacts and this and this. There's a whole list, and it's amazingly long with some apps, more than it should be. That's because you set in permissions in your app, what permissions this Android app needs. If you're developing correctly, you should only put the permissions you really need in your app. But a lot of sloppy developers will just put in a whole bunch of permissions there. Because, again, so if I run this app right now, it won't work because I don't have permission to go on the internet with the app and in the manifest. So if I wait for this to run, and I won't, if I were to wait for this to run, it would run just fine. I'd see my list of website. I click on a website, it would bring up the detailed view, and it would say cannot connect, and it would give me like a 404 error or something. It would seem like I don't have internet connectivity. And you'd think, oh, maybe my Wi-Fi isn't on, or you go all through all this debugging. I've been there. And you realize all it is that your particular app doesn't have permissions to use the internet. And again, you need permissions to use the internet, to use like when we do GPS, if you want to access the GPS directly, we'll need permissions to use that, and stuff like that. So we're just going to go in here where it says adding manifest permissions, grab this one line, users, permissions, Android, permissions, internet. So we just need that one XML line. So I don't want to worry about the stuff above or below because I'm just going to paste that one line in and copy it. Now I'm going to go in, and again, we haven't talked much about, but there's this manifest page which has the information about our website, and there's about our app. And I can open up the Android manifest. Every time we add an activity and an intent, it puts it in here. So that's why if you're adding an activity or an intent, you should generally, and I think we've been doing this, right-click and say Add Activity, because besides creating the class, it actually puts it in here also. If you just added a class and made it into an activity, you'd run into some problems. But up here, right before the application tag, right there, that's where we're going to paste. So this is our permission right there. We have to paste in this one uses permission Android name and then the android.permissions.internet. So this will give our app permission to use the internet. And again, it has to be above the application. It has to be in the manifest. It can be anywhere. It can't be inside the application tag. It can't be inside the manifest tag. So again, I've got to watch where this tag, manifest tag, is beginning, ending, and where the application tag is beginning and ending. So I'm just putting it right there. Okay, let's see if we can run this app though. Okay, so we're going to rename these. I'm going to right click on this and choose refactor, rename. It's Shift F6 as a shortcut. And I'm going to call this site list. Hit enter. Sometimes for some of the inputs, it won't do the refactoring right away. It'll display a status screen down here, and you'll have to say, OK, refactor. So watch that. This one, it just renamed it and should have changed it in all the right places. So if I scroll down to the dummy items here and do refactor and rename, I'm going to call this site items. So now it didn't actually do the changes. It changed it back, but it brought up this find refactoring preview down here, so I can, because it's doing lots of stuff, particularly stuff in comments. It sees stuff in comments, and it doesn't know about should we be changing things inside comments or not. Okay. So that's what's pulling out is you have these dummy items inside comments, and it's freaking out. It's, oh no, what should I do? So you can just say do refactor. We don't have to refactor the comments because I'm going to delete those. So again, watch when you refactor. Sometimes it'll pop up that window. It won't seem to refactor, and if you try it again, it'll just pop up more windows down below. So okay, so I have a site item. So that's looking pretty good. It also changed, again, Java, the name of the file has to match the name of the class, so it's named the file here. We still have the dummy folder there. Let's change that. Let's just right-click on that folder and do refactor, rename on that folder, and call it site data or something like that. So again, we've renamed our classes and the folder they sit in. And again, I like to use refactoring because it just works so well with the renaming and everything, every place that exists. Okay, let's see how our list is coming. Okay. Okay, next we're gonna, while this stuff is still static, I've got a class and I've got a static array list, a static map, and all the data I'm adding in static. I really don't like, static is just a little shortcut way of doing this in the demo. We don't want to do that for real. Again, that puts it in a special memory area off the stack, and you can only have one of these active at a time because it's static. So we're going to get rid of a bunch of this static stuff and just make this into a normal class. So let's just go through here where it says static. I'm going to delete that. Here it says static. I'm going to delete that. For now, I'm just going to copy out, I'm going to comment out this whole static constructor, or where I create these. I'm going to move that somewhere else eventually. Okay. And this static here, this static here. I think there's 4 or 5 statics here. I don't want to have any statics in this whole class. So this would just be a normal class. I have to declare a variable of that class somewhere and call a constructor for that class and stuff like that. Without the stacks, I didn't have to call the constructor. I didn't have to have a variable of this class. Now I will have to do this. So just removed all the statics and commented out these.
Everything about static.
Yeah, man.
Just the word static. Yeah, and comment out that section, that one section where we declare our variables. Where we call the constructors here, we're calling the constructors inside a static thing inside this class. We just don't like that. It's good for the example because it made it shorter and easier to do, but if we're going to do this for real, we don't want it there. So where do we want, we need a variable for our list of websites. Where should that be? If you remember, we've got a list activity tied into a list fragment, and that feeds into a detail activity that feeds into a detail fragment. We tend to put most of our code in the fragments here because the activities now just contain the fragments. So most of our code is in our fragments. And again, if we want a variable that holds a list of websites, we want to put it in here because this is we'll pass that information from here on to here. Okay, so we can we'll put the list right here in our list fragment Java code. So what is that called? So that should be called website list fragment. Website list fragment. And it's also, good hint, it's also the only one that has an error right now because we killed all that static stuff. It is confused. So it was down here, where was it? It was using items, which is from our site list. It was calling the static array right there. And it's calling items down here again. I think those are the two. I thought, one of the other things I thought was calling the items map. So, okay, so we need to, we're going to declare a variable in here to hold our, this array, this array list of items. So it's called a site list is my class. So I'm just going to go, I'm going to go here right above my onCreate for now. I'm going to declare, not in the inside, but outside the onCreate. I'm going to say public site list equals new site list. Add items, and I'm going to just be lazy and copy this other one over there, the Amazon one, and do another bookmark. Let's add St. Scholastica here. I'm going to add another bookmark for St. Scholastica. This will be ID 4. So I've created some bookmarks here. The other thing I have to do in these is that there are places where I refer to my items array list using site list. I now have to change that. I have to refer to items from my bookmark. Bookmarks are my variable. So here, where it says site list.items, let me comment that out and put in the correct version. It should be bookmarks. So again, it used to refer to this static array list inside site list, inside my class. It was static. Now I've moved this into a variable called bookmarks, and I'm saying bookmarks.item instead. And I think there's one other place where I have to do that. Scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. Here, where items is here. I have to make sure that it says bookmarks.items. So again, it used to say site list.items because items was static, and so I could just use the class name and then items, but I made it non-static, so now I need a variable of that type, bookmarks, and then I can say bookmarks.items. Is this whole static stuff making any sense to you at all? It takes a while to get wrapped around this static stuff, and I don't know why they did their sample and static things. I think let's see, what do we have to do here? Web detail fragment. Oh, okay. That's a problem. So rather than passing the ID down to the detailed fragment as a string, let's just pass the URL. So we won't pass the ID down. We'll just pass the URL down as an argument to the detailed fragment. So we're going to go into website list fragment. Oh, maybe that's not going to work. I'm just trying to look at, there's an on item selected here that's being called. And just trying to figure out how that information is getting called to the on item selected here. Oh, it's passed back to the detailed activity. On item selected. No, not the detailed, the list activity. On item selected, and here we're sticking in this argument, the website from this ID here in our extras, and that's being passed. So it's often weird how this information is getting passed. So really, I was showing it this way, But how this works is that we are passing from the list fragment, we're passing the ID back here to the list activity, and that's passing it here and over to here. So this ID is moving around through, because this fragment doesn't talk directly to that fragment. So, website list fragment, this one? That one? So I'll look at this and figure out what's going on and figure out a better method for passing this information. Like I said, I thought I had it all solved, but I didn't notice in my code I still had the static variable and was using that in that one place. So why don't you just turn this in as is, or at least why don't you just turn in a description saying you worked on this today. Don't turn in anything. And then again, we'll look at I'll show you a complete version on the Monday after break. So just go on the Blackboard and just tell me that you worked on this. We've just got to, right now it passes this ID around, and we just have to change it so it doesn't just pass it passes the URL rather than that string here. Okay.